as a staff sergeant on the line. What are some vivid memories that you have of that particular deployment? Because you said there was a turnaround, right, from OIF-2 to OIF-3.
OIF-3 was just, you knew what you were doing in OIF-1. OIF-3 is when a lot of the insurgency was starting, IEDs were kicking up. I've got a lot of vivid memories, that it was tough. That's probably the biggest part of my military career I block out daily. It sucked. It sucked as leader, but I made a deal with my guys. I had a mustache. I'd had a mustache for a long time. And on that deployment, I told them if we went home with everybody, I'd shave it off. And I did. They all went home, every single one of them. And I shaved it off. My wife and my dog didn't recognize me, but it sucked. You saw the worst of everything.
So talk about, as much as you're comfortable, about the way that you as a staff NCO, right? The way that you were able to help with the morale of your men, and different things like that, because everybody's away from home, right? And you make a promise like that, which is to some extent inconsequential unless you're in theater like that, right? And then it actually means something because everybody wants to see you clean shaven, right? So talk about like the motivation and the morale and these kinds of things as you were going through all these different things with your men, but then having to, at the same time, be human, in terms of just being able to relate to one another.
Probably the biggest thing there is, at least for me, the way I dealt with is I have an awesome wife, and I let her manage everything at home. And she kept a lot off my radar that was happening. I found out after, it was that deployment, I came home and come to find out my oldest, had been put in the hospital for about 3 days with RSV. At one point, he stopped breathing. I didn't know about it until I came home from deployment. She said, in her mind, you don't need any of that on your plate. There's nothing you can do from there. So she didn't tell me about it. So crap like that happened where she just kept things off my radar. So when I called, everything's fine. We're taking care of everything. You do what you got to do. And so other than those times when you're talking to your wife, you sort of you ignore that part of your life because if you're constantly harping on it, it's hard to focus on what you're doing. So at least for me, that's how I did it. I ignored my life at home, except for when I had phone calls, and then I'd have to block it out again and take care of what I had to take care of. But man, the camaraderie, you just razz on each other, your mama jokes. By this time, most of the phone centers have been set up, so that helped. We were getting email, so being able to email, that you got a little bit quicker reaction on communication. So those are things that kept you somewhat grounded, but a lot of it was just enjoying each other's company. I actually got the Stevensville Walmart to send us 2 pools, and we set those up. And it was little things like that where you just tried to introduce things. Our commander and First Sergeant, I think our commander was Captain Salih, if I remember his name correctly. Phenomenal officer. I swear that man never slept the entire deployment, but he was there for everything. But they made points of having cookouts, just little things that just helped distract you from what you knew was gruesome the moment you went out on patrol, kind of deal. So, we'd spent time on video games, playing cards. You just did whatever you could when you had that downtime to just block everything out. And then when you went to do what you're doing, you tried to just do your best. Sometimes on patrol, one of the things we would enjoy doing, we didn't do it often, but when we did, it was nice. The Iraqis made a phenomenal flatbread. And a lot of the places that had the flatbread were also doing rotisserie chicken. And so if it was a low deployment or a low patrol where nothing was really being fired off and we happened to come by one of these bakeries, man, we'd pull up, set up security, and a couple of people would go in and get a bunch of flatbread and get a bunch of chicken. And then when we had an opportunity, we'd move away from there and find somewhere a little bit more secure and sort of just set up and just enjoy some flatbread and chicken, armed to the teeth with 2 Bradleys and a Humvee, all pointing out kind of deal. But it was just a little opportunity to just not worry is something going to blow up the next time I go down the street, kind of deal. So those are little ways we try to deal with those situations.